highlighted that please get access to all these documents. And I'm not tech savvy as you all, that's why I'm reading this, not using that data mutalia, okay, computer, but you are. So in fact, I just once getting a hot and so on. So do have an access and please do read it because the important is it belongs to you all. So that's the first thing. So thank you so much for making or realizing this Dasar Negara, and it is very timely. Why it is very timely? Because we have to acknowledge that it is a living document. When it is a living document, we need to review it. And why do we review it? It's because you want it to be reviewed. You echo that voice that needs to be reviewed. And secondly, why we need to review it is because environment necessitates us to be reviewed. Impact of globalizations and the new words now is the fourth industrial revolutions need us to review this. And why do we need to review it? And it's because of the shock. The shock is things like COVID-19 necessitate us to review this Dasar Negara. So that's the first point. And also, it is very timely that we are reviewing it because there's a lot of policies now that has been reviewed or being built. We have the digital economy, we have the climate change policies or Dasar. And of course, we have this strategy of manpower planning and employment council strategies. And of course, the most important is Asean 2035. Remember, the last one was 2002. That was about 18 years ago. So hopefully, these are in line with all these strategies. And remember, if there's any fault, it's not my fault, it is our fault because we built this. But I'm sure, I'm 100% confident this is the way forward because this is your voice. So that's the first thing that I would like to share. I think the next one that I would like to share is just what is the vision of the Dasar Negara? And these visions has been crafted. I think what the Arabic says here has been crafted. We started this journey in 2018. We only get this thing out in 2020. Just imagine it takes us 2 years. First, I acknowledge the SPS who has been helping us in this journey. We crafted it. I think we must have changed this a lot of time. And at the end, our vision is youth who are values-driven and world-class, okay, who are future-ready agents of change for national development rooted in inclusivity. Very long word. But the key word here is value-driven, world-class youth, future-ready agents of change and inclusive development. 4. Why? What do you mean by value-driven? The value-driven is what we put. Okay, how we highlight the value-driven is youth who are very holistic, who have the holistic values. Jangan lupa duniawi and ukhrawi. It cannot be just duniawi, it has to be ukhrawi. Purposeful, visionary, and uphold and practice the national philosophy of MIT. That's what we mean by value-driven. And secondly, world-class youth. Yes, we have to aim high. We have to acknowledge, I know Fitz, my colleagues in here who have been given an award in Vietnam recently. Al-Hufan, and we have been twice here under the program of Fitz. Fitz is here, who's been awarded recently in Vietnam. And of course, YB Darussalam who got an award in Commonwealth. So we have to aspire into world-class youth. We are there. So we aim for our youth to be globally recognized in various fields of accomplishments, either in education, research, climate change, poverty reduction, creative economy, entrepreneurship, arts and sports. Nothing hold our youth. We have to aim for that. So we see that our visions have to be world-class youth. And of course, the word that we keep on using, future-ready agents of change. It is all being adaptable and resilient. So, and last point is about inclusive development, where it is important that no one is left behind. Remember, our youth are made up of different type of therefore inclusivities are important, inclusive development. So what is my hope is the next question. Hopes is simple. What is my hope is to remind to all our young people and also stakeholders. Remember, this is cross-cutting. We cannot do it alone. It's a cross-cutting. It's a cross-sector. Our partners are not only the youth, our partners are the ministries, the governments, the agencies, and so on. It's cross-cutting. Our hope is to remember that the policies belong to all of us. This, you must believe, it belongs to all of us. It's not mine, it's all of us. And secondly, it's not about outcome. It is not about my outcome. It is about our outcome. It is not my hope. It is about our hope. Remember, it is not I. It is we. It is ours. And then we must also value our whole of nation approach, where each of us is accountable. Remember, as I said, it's a cross-cutting. And this is what policy is all about. And key to this is all about implementation. We do not want it to be rhetoric. It's all about implementation. It is how to implement and deliverable, outcome-based, and we need to work together. This cannot be rhetoric. Remember this. And the important that we have moved forward is we have established a youth advisory group. But Darussalam, congratulations, you are leading this with another 11 of the young people. You know what's the role of this? We have to be accountable. There must be a check and balance to all these things. There must be a check and balance, and the youth are doing this check and balance. You have to ensure that your voice, your mind, and what innovation is always heard and acted upon, and deliverables are monitored. This is the role of this youth advisory group. So we are to be checked. We must ensure that the deliverables and KPI are being acted upon. And this is where you play an important and critical role in translating empowerment into practical actions. So there's no point of empowering you, but you have to put this into practical actions. Last but not least, through DBNS, you can be in a better position to become future leaders and to take actions. And from an uninformed, empowered, and youth perspective. And at the end, you are our valued partners in this national building. Remember, this is 2035, 2024, and 2035. This is 2020. In 15 years from now, I'm 70 years old. I can become your mentor. Okay? I love to become your mentor if you want me to be. You're on 20. 20, 15, you are still youth. Okay? And if you are 25, in 15 years, you can become youth leader. So remember this, 15 years is not long. So let us all have a sense of urgency. My hope is all of us will together and have a sense of urgency to move with deliverables and KPI to what you aspire, to what we aspire, and so on. So that's it. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
For previous listen to that, the youth policy is created for us. And therefore, thank you also for involving many of us who are in actually the ideation as well of the youth policy. I think some of us are here, we remember actually coming up with the theme, what should the youth be? What should the youth of Brunei be in the future? So alhamdulillah, thank you very much. So let's go to the floor. I think we have many questions. Can we have?
Sorry, just to recap, thank you so much to our young Muhammad Al-Fikri to actually extend the session up to 11:45. So that is just for everyone's information, so we have plenty of time to ask questions. Also, as you may already know through your briefing note, we have 3 sub-teams on top of the team. So each of these 3 sub-teams, inshallah, will cover about 40 minutes each, roughly. But please bear in mind in which of the sub-teams that we will be focusing on. And I'll let Fatin go through the ground again with the participants when they introduce themselves and the floor.
Yeah, and actually also when we were doing the registration, we did ask our participants what sort of questions that you actually want to ask the minister. So we've actually classified them into disciplines because of the questions, yeah. But I think maybe just to give opportunity for participants to ask anything, maybe let's take this round any questions that come up, and then we can classify them.
And we'll have the participants to be succinct, introduce themselves and your question. And we'll collect them in one round of 3 questions, yeah?
Can we have a microphone over here, please?
Can we have the hands up for the first question? Second,
Second
I
question?
see one on.
Maybe we'll get one from that side and we'll get.
Okay, we'll have the gentleman here in blue at the front. On my side, do we have any questions yet? No questions so far. Just on the gentleman's side. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat Datuk. Betul-betul. Sekali saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih. Dan tertolong untuk saya sebagai salah seorang student kuliah bagi menimba ilmu serta pengalaman dari semua yang hadir pada hari ini. Dan terus ingin berkongsi beberapa perkara yang sudah dimaklumkan kepada pihak ofis yang berhormat. Saya kita berharap bila Muhammad Ridwan diintegrasi mampu ke kampung di PKRD Kopi. Umurnya 38 tahun lah. Alhamdulillah saya telah memasuki jawatan ini selama lebih kurang sebulan dan telah pun melalui ujian dan kemudian hampir 2 tahun yang lepas. Saya mempunyai 4 soalan pada hari ini yang mana akan ditujukan kepada semua dan hormat.
If I can reserve you just for at least one question. Okay.
Yeah, to ask the rest of the area. My first question is di kampung 3J atau Ping punya 3 kawasan, jumlah rumah hampir 1,500 buah dan mengambil berata 5 orang setiap rumah. Ramai penduduk pada masa ini hampir mencapai 8,000 orang. Hampir 50% penduduk adalah mereka yang berpindah dari kampung Semiling dan kampung air bagi memberikan jalan untuk projek-projek yang sudah siap pada masa ini. Pada asalnya kami mereka ini mencari pendapatan dari sumber air seperti sebagai seorang nelayan dan sebagainya. Hingga ada yang mengatakan tidak pernah berlapar walau sehari pun semasa berada di rumah mereka yang sebelumnya. Kesulitan yang mereka hadapi pada masa ini adalah menyesuaikan diri dengan kehidupan di darat. Dan tanpa pekerjaan mereka menghadapi kesukaran untuk membayar rumah yang telah pun dikurniakan. Berdasarkan ini juga anak-anak mereka ada kalanya tidak dapat bersekolah kerana tidak mempunyai kenderaan dan keselamatan mereka tidak terjamin sekiranya berjalan kaki. Soalan saya yang berhormat Datuk, bagaimanakah kerajaan Tuan yang Maha Mulia dapat membantu ataupun memberikan buah fikiran kepada saya untuk mengatasi perkara ini kerana ianya boleh dikatakan perkara yang agak unik jika dibandingkan dengan kampung-kampung atau perpindahan yang lain kerana bagi saya ianya satu paut dengan meningkatkan socio-economic penduduk di kampung saja. Betul.
Terima kasih Pengiran Muhammad Ridwan. Can I just have some other question from my left side here? Raise your hands. One.
Can we also request everybody in the consideration of the team, let's stick to the team of leading for national development, yeah? So can we have the second question?
Raise your hand. We have a gentleman on my right. Just passing on microphone. Just a quick refresh, everyone. The team is leading for national development in the new normal. So please come to that. Gentlemen, please. Waalaikumsalam. My name is firstly, I would like to actually say that 2020 has been a very tough year for all of us, and I just want to say thank you to our beloved ministers for inspiring us and actually facing towards tough. This leads me to my first question, which is, sorry, Iskandar, you have one question, yeah? Thank you. And that question is, as ministers, how do you manage to handle such a very tough obstacle this year? And I know that COVID is a black swan event, meaning that it's out of the blue. How do you handle it well? And as youth, we're eventually going to have to face challenges in our near future, challenges that we did not expect. And what kind of tips you would give to us youth in facing such challenges? Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much. Last question for this round. Ladies. I see one, a lady in baju kurung in the red window. Please introduce yourself and your question. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Brunei Darussalam from Brunei Darussalam. Firstly, I would like to share with you that, to introduce myself. I'm my main scope of work is looking after the health of the baby in Brunei Darussalam. So, ini baru job penamparian saya lah. So, however, just recently, to share with you, dari pihak dari Ministry of Education came to us to raise awareness about sexual health issues. Okay, particular they said macam begin macam ni. I know now macam Brunei Alhamdulillah very sudah modernized with regards to technology and keep engaged with the other developed countries. However, it seems that there's some misuse of the technology among the school teams because during the MOE have received many complaints recently that the teams ini memakai this macam memakai durang macam Zoom dating dia apa like itulah that kind of thing, and then sampailah terjadi oleh STI dengan pregnancy apa kan. So we did muzakara among some parents of one particular school cluster, and they are also concerned about this issue as well, and they support us on our Wishawa initiative with them. So I'd like to get some views from our Yang Menteri about these issues, and also in general juga with regards to smoking, and then unhealthy lifestyle issues among the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One, that was from the lady from the Ministry of Health. I'm going to check in here with Fatih. We have some good variation of questions. One gentleman, Kamyan at the front, and then from Skandar, I think, if I got the name at the back, and the lady earlier. And three of these have three unique issues asking insights from this list. First one on security, and in general on the social welfare, which kind of relates to the third question very relevant on the Kejana issue, social issues that that's in discussion earlier. Last one on COVID-19. Fatih, what do you think?
I think maybe we should go to Wadi Datu Amin Fasal to respond to the question today on the issue of the social issue, and maybe Datu will tell us as well, what's the work that Moki is doing, and also your work at PMO as well.
I think talk about PMO and Moki there. Okay. I think in PMO, there are a few major functions under PMO. I think if you look at the major ones, for example, the public service, and also security of the country, and there's also legal, media, and so on. I think the functions under PMO is to just provide the environment for the community to function, so that there's always law and order. The ministries get the resources to actually function as individual ministries, perform their responsibilities and so on. And so, of course, like most countries and all ministries are all facing with this fourth industrial revolution. And so, we obviously, whatever we do, we continue to adapt with improvement in our processes, in the way we do things, and so on. So I think that, so in summary, I think PMO has a so-called sort of broader responsibility to ensure that, whether it's government sector or private sectors, everybody has the ability to fall into discharge their responsibilities. So on Mofi, of course, people will tend to look at us and, we approve budgets every year, like what we do. We do, present it at the Legislative Council for approval,
and after that it will spend the money and then make a claim and we will process the payment and so on. But I think beyond that, I think we are looking to the future about what do we do, to prepare the country better. When we give away budget, how do we make sure that the utilization of the budget is done in the most optimal manner? So, for example, if you could perform a certain task and it costs a certain amount, can it actually be done at a lower cost, for example? So it's not just a matter of just giving whatever budget that people ask for and then we just process their payment. So we want to ensure that there is efficiency in the cost utilization, this budget utilization, and also to ensure that we are well prepared for other eventualities. For example, this year you have COVID-19. Nobody planned for that, right? And suddenly we have to allocate budget for it. So how do you actually build up your fiscal position to handle all this unknown, right? And so while we are managing, creating efficiency in the way we utilize the budget, and to ensure that we build in sufficient cushion to handle unforeseen requirements, like what we have seen in COVID-19. There's a lot of other things that we are doing at the same time, through the government-linked companies, through the state boards that we have, to also ensure that what they do is done in the most optimal manner. But managing all this is it is an ongoing journey. But at the same time, the country is faced with what we kept talking about, the challenge of fourth industrial revolution. We need to prepare for that. We are faced with high unemployment. We are faced with over-reliance on oil and gas revenue. Our economy is not very well diversified, right? So these are the challenges that we're facing. On top of all this, we have infrastructure that we need to maintain, right? And so we have challenges like, for example, this question being asked about, the first question asked just now about what do they do? Where are the job opportunities for them? How do we create jobs for the local people? So I think so under the Ministry of Finance and Economy, we look at not just about processing the day-to-day budget, allocation and expenses plans and so on. So we are kind of go steps further into improving the way we utilize our budget. As we are responsible for economy as well, how do we use this agenda to address the various issues that we I talked about just now, unemployment, right? Lack of diversification in our economy, and so on. So I think kalau boleh menjawab soalan yang tadi mengenai dengan pokok pemindahan limbah. Sekian je topik ya. Okey. Ini kebanyakannya pindah daripada Sebiling dan Samuk Air. Sebelum ini kebanyakannya semua jadi kira semua kerja darat itu kebanyakannya sebagai nelayan lah. Ini sudah terdapat. Mungkin juga bukan juga semua dulu di Kampung Air sama Sebiling atau memang ada yang juga terdapat pekerjaan di sektor-sektor lain, bukan semua nelayan. Ini satu contoh yang bagus. Kalau sudah pindah ke darat, sama ada masih orang ini mesti juga bekerja sebagai seorang nelayan ataupun akan mencari peluang rezeki lain, sektor-sektor lain. Fourth Industrial Revolution ada satu contoh. Yang kalau ubah pekerjaan yang ada masa ini, mungkin satu hari karena Fourth Industrial Revolution itu lebih biasa. So kita ni tidak boleh, mesti juga macam dulu kerja kita ni cuma sebagai nelayan, masa depan kalau pindah ke darat kan, ke mana-mana kan, mesti juga dijamin bekerja sebagai nelayan atau something else. So ini yang satu contoh lah. Fourth Industrial Revolution kan berubah banyak pekerjaan yang ada masa ini in the future mungkin menjadikan pekerjaan yang lain lagi. Jadi soalan pikiran itu is not mengkali macam mana orang ramai ini yang telah pindah ke darat ini masih dapat mencari rezeki sebagai nelayan. Apakah peluang-peluang lain bagi mereka? Apa yang soalannya kan? Ini sama juga soalan yang bukannya saja bagi orang di tapi lah ke semua rakyat Brunei sama saja. It's not just very specific for orang kita dari kampung air ke darat. Ini bukan juga spesifik on youth. Ini kepada the whole working force lah. So ini adalah just yang tadi Prambar ceritakan pasal MOFI responsibility. Right? Kita ni bukan saja manage budget. MOFI ini adalah tanggung jawab kepada kemajuan ekonomi negara juga. Jadi kemana kita ini memajukan ekonomi kita ini supaya menjanakan lebih banyak pekerjaan untuk orang ramai kita ini. Biasanya sama je lah soalan kita itu untuk menjawab soalan pilihan. Jadi kita ini kalau lihat ekonomi kita ini atau penduduk kita di dalam negeri ini, masa ini lebih kurang 440,000 450,000 up and down. Jadi dibandingkan dengan negeri-negeri lain, memang satu population yang kecil lah. Jadi dengan population yang 450,000 itu memang kita ini satu kekurangan itu economic scale. Jadi apa yang kita ini buat pun limited to 450,000. Kalau kita ini lihat yang bisnes-bisnes yang ada dalam negeri masa ini, kebanyakan dalam ini menjalankan bisnes satu dalam negeri saja. Jadi whatever you do, dia limit to 450,000 penduduk ataupun demand daripada 450,000 saja. Jadi kalau penduduk kita ini bikin bertambah every year. So dulu kalau dilihat macam 3 tahun yang lalu, ini population hampir 200,000. Now 450,000. Tapi masih juga everybody kebanyakannya menjalankan bisnes dalam negeri. Jadi demand untuk produk kita ini dihadkan ke 450,000. Bagaimana kita ini bisa menjanakan banyak lagi pekerjaan untuk orang kita ini? Kalau kita ini masih juga fokus kepada bisnes dalam negeri. So satu strategi untuk mengatasi isu ini supaya kita ini dapat menjanakan lebih banyak pekerjaan untuk orang kita ini is satu orang bisnes kita ini mencari peluang di luar negeri, ekspor barang kita ini untuk keluar negeri. Jadi kalau sekiranya permintaan bukannya 450,000 saja, sekiranya 3 juta orang yang permintaan. Jadi kita ini punya production factory pun mesti pasal sedikit dan di-expand. Jadi diambil pekerjaan tambahan supaya dapat kita ini satisfied kita ini demand dari luar negeri juga sama dalam negeri kan. So this is how satu cara untuk meningkatkan lagi jumlah pekerjaan untuk orang kita ini. Jadi kalau kan melanjutkan bilang dan supaya kita ini dapat ekspor, kita ini mikirkan juga kita ini punya teknologi atau kita ini punya competitiveness, product innovation, right? Sama bandingkan dengan yang produk dari negeri lain. So ini kan dipikirkan, right? And then so that's why kemarin di Depot Mall ada satu function local product kan, MOP dengan SUT mengatakan SME kita ni mesti inovatif, product development mesti adalah kompetitif dengan negeri-negeri. Kalau kita ni kan ekspor. Ini perkara ini ialah satu jalan. Yang kedua is kita ni sedang banyak kita ni attract foreign direct investor ke Brunei. Ini satu inisiatif untuk meluaskan dari kita ni ekonomi, itu untuk diversify kita ni ekonomi, bukannya saja dalam bidang minyak dan gas, tetapi ke bidang-bidang yang lain juga. So ini kalau dia datang sini menjadikan pekerjaan baru untuk orang kita ni. Jadi pada masa ini manpower bekerja sama dengan beberapa API yang ada di dalam negeri. Dia API ini bukannya saja membawa dana ke dalam negeri, bukan itu saja. Yang kedua, membawa teknologi mereka ke dalam negeri. Yang ketiga, membawa ekspor market dalam. Jadi apa yang dibuat dalam negeri dapat diekspor ke luar negeri. Jadi maksudnya suddenly dulu kita ni ada ekspor market keluar. Sekarang kita ni ada melalui FDI ni. Jadi dalam proses ini dia menjanakan pekerjaan orang kita ni. Betul so achieve a few things. Satu, unemployment issue. Dua, technology transfer antara kita ni. Right? Yang ketiga, we now have ada export market, trading with our trading dengan negeri-negeri di luar dunia. So these are some contoh. You can go into a lot of details. Tapi hanya just as overall saja. Jadi bagi yang kapal perpindahan kapal G ataupun kapal K ataupun perpindahan lain ataupun mana sajalah mana saja kampung dia rasa, these are the opportunity dibukakan kepada orang kita ni semua. Youth adalah satu strategi adalah cara kita ingin mengatasi isu unemployment, over reliance on oil and gas, allow technology transfer. Jadi kita ni dapat meningkatkan kita ni punya know-how. Jadi apa yang penting kita ni fikirkan is kita ni punya youth lah especially dengan peluang-peluang dibukakan FDI. Kita ni mesti we must learn to work with others. We must macam youth sekarang ni memang kali lain daripada satu mutadib lah dulu when he was a youth lah. Tapi he said he was a youth just not he was not giving away his age. So if you compare, for example, Datuk Mutadib when he was a youth, and same for me too. When we finish our university or finish our education, kita ni yang penting we find a job. Sudah ada job, we try to work hard and stick to it lah. Yang kalau youth kita ni melihat pada masa ni, kali contoh ni, I don't know whether how true is Brunei masih luar di other country lain, negeri-negeri lain, aku faham kali dia want to work, but he also say, what can I contribute? What can I do? What kind of impact can I make in this job? Maksud the youth sekarang ni kan. So, but there is good and bad. Okay, so if the youth today are very want to show how they can make an impact to the society, to the in their work, how do they contribute more and so on. But the danger is sometimes they are less patient. So they feel that after a few months they don't feel happy, they don't feel they contribute, they want to leave. Kalau dulu ingat in my observation orang tetap kerja tu ya he very happy lah, so he will try to stick to the job and try to kadang-kadang not happy juga, ada juga not happy tapi they stay on and maybe they learn.
No.
So this is a very important valuable experience.
Job loyalty is there.
The loyalty is there, and also because they need a job, secure a job. Then they think about how do they contribute a bit later. So if some of us have the opportunity to work overseas, you will find that the environment is very different. Kadang-kadang bosnya kalau dia student adalah kita ni. Tapi if you stay on to it to learn, and this is what sometimes if you do, some of you if you do courses like MBA and so on, this is an organizational behavior. So we need to understand how organization functions. So there are challenges, there are experience that we can learn from how organizations operate. So I know. So my observation is I think when we find a job whether it's what you want to do or the ideal job or not the ideal job, but it's still an experience that you will gain a lot of value from. Kalau masuk pada masa ini kita ni ekonomi terlalu depend on oil gas lah. Jadi untuk kita ni majukan kepada straight away fourth industrial revolution ataupun sektor-sektor lain, it's not an overnight thing. Mengambil masa. Jadi buat mengambil masa ni dia kita ni in transition period. This transition period apa yang penting pada masa transition period ini supaya orang kita ni as much as possible bekerja, mendapatkan experience dulu. Whether it is experience untuk punya skill or whatever, or it could be what I said tadi, organizational behavior. How do we understand the working environment?
So we had made a very important point tadi about working collaboration with the government. In fact, actually, one person who slide was asking about if the government requires study behavior untuk bekerja di luar negara.
This is something we have some conversation with the Ministry of Education. Okay, so at the moment because of the unemployment rate in Brunei, that is today, if you compare, we have a lot of private students, bukannya semua under government scholarship. So private students are free to go, work wherever they want, gain whatever experience, and one day they will come back. When they come back, they bring a lot of this new experiences. Okay, this is personal. Yeah. In the late 80s, I worked for ICI Finance PLC in London. ICI, as we know, many of you know, they produce cat. But in UK, it is actually a kind of chemical company. Yang ada kita ni produk dia orang tu is cat lah jenisnya, tapi it's actually the largest manufacturing company in the UK. In the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, so that company is no longer around because they are not that company. So I worked for them for more than 3 years. So, gain the experience, understand about working in a different environment. People their behavior. How do we work side by side with other people? These are the experience. So one day I come back here. So hopefully whatever I gain, I can share in what I do. So I think it's not a bad idea, but of course we must also think that certain qualifications the country are urgently in need today, so we cannot let everybody continue to work outside. So because there are other issues about nation building here, that we need the resources to come back as quickly as possible. So not everybody is
So we need to involve here as well to help the Pati, over to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Yang Rahmat, Dr. Amin. That's very well said on the reactions to answering the Gans answer and Iskandar, both on looking at how we can develop industries from village-based to how we can develop as a whole of nation. And I think on the earlier former answer was this reactions on the government's measures and likewise the reactions by businesses to use e-commerce and so on. Well, I won't take too much of that time. I think a lot of us are hopefully more hot in terms of asking questions. But I know Yang Rahmat, Dr. Tadet, you were eager to answer that last question. If I could just allow you to just answer briefly on that. I think that question was more on the use of technology and how can it be done purposefully for good. Yang Rahmat.
Thank you so much. Very quickly on the last question, 2 points. First point, probably I'd like to humbly address that point that you raised about security issues with regard to the usage of the computer, the IT that you mentioned. And secondly, if the moderator allows me, can I humbly offer some views also, generally, on some of the pointers I think raised by Captain Besaran Penyiran. And I feel terpanggil lah untuk memberikan sedikit, since I had a formalistic experience at the home affairs sector before this. It's just some views that I probably share. Back to the first point just now raised by, was it Doctor? Somebody from MOH or MOE? MOH. I think you raised a very pertinent and profoundly relevant point. Because, in fact, in my teaser today, I gave you a teaser on what digital economy master plan is all about for you to read it. And one of the issues of the enabling factor is actually none other than cybersecurity. Now, this is probably allow me to touch back on that one, and I'm really glad that you raised this today, because certainly this has been in our radar as well. And Alhamdulillah, with good coordination from MOE, MOH, and in fact, you're not the only one who posed this question before. And this is why today, I think it's timely you want to share with you a few data or information, just to recap to the question, guys. Just to give you a bit of background, I'd like to give you a bit of good news and a little bit of not so good news. Which do you want to hear first? Naturally, okay. Good news first. I tell you what, this has much to do with the question. It's not about giving you information here. The good news is, let's look at the data, the information. Where are we in Asean, Brunei? Now, we talk about infrastructure. Colleagues today correctly pointed out about Industrial Revolution 4.0. I talk about internet economy. These are probably all the same thing. And this is the way forward in the future. In the next 5 to 10 years, all the jobs will be different. Now, where are we in terms of infrastructure development? We can't have all this if our network infrastructure, for example, macam tadi punya mobile communication is nowhere in that line. We can't have this with overpriced services, for example, if you agree on that one. Now, the good news is, in ASEAN, we're actually the top 2, in the top 2 regions. So, whether this is International Telecommunication Union, recent data, bukan tadi punya pemandai-mandai, but it's based on ITU punya findings in terms of the pricing in ASEAN. Inshallah, the top 2 ini pun probably, if you ask most of us around here, we probably may want it to be better and better and better, right? So inshallah, this is where the whole of nation will probably come in. I will not go into that, but second good news. The second good news is just on the pricing. In terms of infrastructure, with all the, we have now 3 mobile phone service providers, and now, alhamdulillah, early this year, you have heard already, consolidation driven by the DA and MOPI side, regulated by MPIC, working together on this. There is now a UNN, so consolidated infrastructure, with 3 services providers. Now you have choices, and 3 service providers for mobile and even fixed broadband. Now, the good part is that, again, as I said, we're in the top 3 in terms of pricing. We're top 2 in ASEAN. Top 3 and going on strong, inshallah. Now, the third good news, perhaps, the good news is in terms of our broadband uptake. since January, or rather, to be specific, since even in COVID, behind COVID, since March until now, we saw a 60% improvement in terms of broadband usage. That means capacity to ada, that means pricing affordability is nearly there, but there is a big hype and there is a big demand, and there is 30% increase from mobile subscription alone from January until now. Now this is again part and parcel of the building blocks of doing towards the digital economy that we talk about. By 2025, we're looking at better figures, inshallah. Now, cybersecurity. With all these advancements in technologies, we talk about AI, we talk about data analytics. That will be my second point, in terms of employment and job opportunities. But with all this data analytics, with all this data usage, we should not forget about one thing: how to transact securely and so on. And this is happening. We're not the only one who face these challenges. In fact, the region, not even the region, the whole world is facing this challenge right now. How to make a secure communication network. And lagi-lagi tadi ada IT issue, the Zoom issue. Thank you very much. I will be very happy to follow that up offline, and because that is a very grave and serious issue. And I would like here to take this opportunity, kita belia-belia youth, to be responsible, to adhere to whatever security policies in terms of ICT from time to time that's been shared. To look at it, dihayati dia, dilihat di mana-mana, and I'm sure if we are all positive about it, and we know that it shouldn't be abused, misused, etc., things like that, then inshallah, I think we have to get the whole bottom line here is responsibility among all of us. Now, speaking of that, Alhamdulillah, I think just 3 months ago, sometime in August, Alhamdulillah, with the consent of His Majesty, we have established an agency, Cyber Security Brunei, CSB. And this is a new setup. Dalamnya orang-orang petani, orang-orang muda-muda petani, the youth also. And this CSB is one of those agencies, the agency who's looking into security issues that have been raised by this. And inshallah, we're also from the MTIC, Ministry of Transport and Infocom's perspective, we're in the pipeline already now, inshallah. We target by early of next year, we should have a cybersecurity law in place. But this is already in the pipeline, together with what was being raised with the on data protection. Personal data protection is an issue, so this is something where we are in the pipeline for today. Now, very quickly, that will be offline, it's a very great issue, and I certainly acknowledge and thank you for raising that point. Quickly on Captain Basara, if I may put this on job opportunities, let me concur and perhaps add on sedikit in a colleague maybe that's what we do today. In fact, one of the initiatives the government is doing through platforms like ANTI and so on is to upgrade and reskill orang yang di kampung-kampung and so on. And this is the point raised by my colleague here on inclusivity. In terms of warga emas, in terms of businesses, so I understand there will be some few initiatives and programs in the pipeline. So one will be, hopefully, inshallah, will start around January of next year. It's all about the reskilling factor, because the current jobs that we have now, I can tell you a good example. In one of our departments, we have numbers and numbers of Quranis, the frontliners, who do the counter services. So with the advancements of all these technologies, people are applying online, online renewals and so on. So they have to be retrained. They have to be placed and undergo a series of training, how to do online application and how to talk to customers the non-counter way, things like that. And another good example is the Darussalam. What do you call that? Untitled Darussalam 1 to 3. In fact, people may not know this, but it has, in a way, created a job opportunity where actually because of the now people like to order online and call, people will call, voice and data. It has created some form of jobs. In fact, from 42 now they've gone to about 65 states. Orang petani saja, our young locals working for 123 as we speak today. And we hope this number will grow because it grows proportionately with the services that government has to offer to them, by the way. So these are the few things. I think Captain Basara, my only humble advice is there's a lot of issues on the ground. I know issues on the ground. Is unemployment issue, the demand supply issue. Because demand is so great, people want people to the demand for jobs requiring contohnya ICT dana. I have a top 10 which I will share to you. I don't have it right now. Top 10 job in ICT technicians, security, data analysts is the top 10 which is still highly demanded. Perhaps inshallah in the next 5 years. Perhaps these are the things that we should also share and compare with you. Now the only thing is, you need a platform, a dialogue platform. You are on the ground. You are, the grassroots, the grassroots. And akar rupiah ni, you have the privilege to know firsthand, and to us, probably, even this setting is a good example we can actually implement. So to me, district office is there, district home office is there, and of course, you have your own people. So I think this is the way to do it. In fact, you can also have webinars. Yang masanya canggih and very popular right now. We do webinars because of the limitation of physical distancing and so on. So itulah Captain Basara. I think offline again, I'll let you to I'll offer you some of our side punya assistance. And I'm glad that you also raised that about making people to be more marketable and more demand for them rather than orang mencari kerajaan dan kerja, and they have to be certain special skills, as you said, so ada language skills.
Thank you very much. I think those were
and I just 3 minutes, I promise you. I just want Dr. Hajar just want to highlight to you, according to the index, there are issues about our youth in terms of healthy lifestyle under the index, Commonwealth index. So inside this asap here, you can see this under strategi tersempat pemerkasaan dia. There are one objective, mengukuhkan program pendidikan pencegahan berkait dengan lebih sihat dan keselamatan diri. So these are being captured, so that we want our youth to have a healthy lifestyle and so on. So it is being captured in the asap here, just to answer you. And also in this asap here also, it is also being captured dengan program kesedaran cybersecurity and via internet and media socials. So these are also being highlighted. So I just want to share that with you, with Dr. With Tuan Iskandar. I just want to share with you one thing only, which is, yes, youth must be well prepared with any future shocks. That is always being highlighted, future shocks. So COVID-19 is one of the shocks. So we should be ready with any future shocks. Towards this, we must be nasihat. We have to be adaptable. We have to be and we should be adapt and adopt to any future challenges. Okay, so, and then from these challenges, we have to find opportunities. With any challenges, there are opportunities. And COVID-19 has shown us that there's a lot of opportunities that come from here. Virtual platforms, we are much faster in technologies and so on. We put these challenges into opportunities. We also brought up the clear Amo. There's a lot of nations involvement and so on. But we have to be very innovative and creative in embracing all these challenges. So that's my atulah. And Tuan Redwan, Ketua Kampung, Ania, you are amongst the youth leaders. I think you are youth leaders because you are less than 45. So congratulations to you becoming a Ketua Kampung. What I want to share with you on this one is social welfare it's not an issue. It's a thing that we have to the government's play an important part with social welfare. So we have to do, okay, so that no one is left behind in the adanya keterisan. I just want to share with you, under the SKN platforms, we were able to get a good artificial intelligence. From artificial intelligence, we are able to address all the poverty issues in Brunei Darussalam. Okay? We want to break this poverty cycle. In order to break this poverty cycle, is to do a good artificial intelligence, to have a real facts, data facts. And I just want to share with you, so Kampong, under our early artificial intelligence, yes, we are aware. SDKRJ, where you are, is one of the highest penerima recipients. I just want to share what does the government do. Last year, there are about 5,820 head of families which received bantuan kebajikan bulanan. If you multiply that by 2, anaknya 2, it's what, 10,000. So this is what government tidak adanya keterisa. We must give to people who ought to be given. Okay? Mana boleh orang keterisaannya tidak. This is what we call social welfare. But what we want to do now is to break the poverty cycle. To break the poverty cycle is one, is give them skill, give them work, give them entrepreneurship. Alhamdulillah, the good news, come with us. We will give all these people skill to PPP, any other mechanism. And we have done this. If you give them skill, you must close that cycle. To close the cycle is through employment, to give them entrepreneurship, and to give them grant to start. And we have done this. You see, belia-belia, I have to say success story. Create a Cerita Fabric, the new one, Astatika, Masroni, Barberku, Barber Stitch. These are all people who are orang yang mendapat pendapatan rendah. We will ensure that we give them skill, close that cycle, give them platforms, give them incubator, give them grants. So inshallah, we will continue to do this. So, next one is, we are giving employment, alhamdulillah. We work with our job center. Today, since we started this in 2019, we have given employment to 320 penerima bantuan dan anak-anaknya. We don't go to the job center, we liaise with them, we have strategic partners. So, to Betul Kampung, they need to have a change of mindset. That is important. So, work with all of us, the government, to change the mindset. Platforms are there for them to tackle. So, I think it's our role in the government to ensure that we need to break this poverty cycle. We need to. Okay? So, we do not want it to be fire ni kan, sekejap, and then we give, and that's it. It has to be sustainable. So that is what we should do, what the government is doing, and hopefully the SKN will give us a better picture of what it is, and so that we are able to mitigate all these factors. And just to share, the SKN is an excellent platform. Okay? Yes, we understand in terms of accessibility, we understand that people do not understand, but we are there also to help them. Okay? So let us work together. You are our eyes and ears, and you are the one to be our partners, so that tidak adanya orang yang terkesan. So thank you so much. So that's my 3 minutes.
Thank you, Wajid Datuk. Maybe before we move on to the next question, there's actually a question about entrepreneurship being encouraged at the moment for Peninsula Belia due to the job opportunities. Maybe Wajid Datuk, Dr. Amin has a response to this in terms of, the reality is that entrepreneurship is a risky career choice for our young people. So at the end of the day, sometimes they go into entrepreneurship, and then when they get a job, they leave entrepreneurship. What's your thoughts?
Maybe not everybody is born. Maybe not everybody see themselves born as entrepreneur. And some people are more risk taker. Some are not so much of a risk taker. But if you see, if people are willing to take risks, I think they have sort of better opportunity to achieve more, hopefully, on the business side. But I think work as a job is not something that you depend on what your preference is. So, for example, if people feel that I can contribute more as getting a job work in a company or whether it's government or private sector company, I can contribute more. I think that is individual attributes as well. So some people might say, I'm more as I'd like to take, go into business world. So then generally, I think that is a risk that they must accept. So the rewards, of course, can be different financially. Maybe even contribution to the society can also be very different. We have seen many other countries where people, given the opportunity, they are successful as an entrepreneur. Of course, financial reward is quite significant, but they can also use that platform to do more for the society. So not just about trying to make more money for themselves. But again, it all depends on individuals' ability. I mean, if some people probably not have the necessary sort of training or attribute to become an entrepreneur, then of course when dia orang lain maju ataupun very successful financially, mereka tak boleh jadi compare. So of course there is risk, but I think we are all getting a job is not necessary without risk. As we have seen from this COVID-19, in other countries, many people lose their job. It's not only in the aviation, in the retail space and all that, people are losing their jobs. Important is whether the business is doing well or not. Right? If the business is not doing well, people will also lose their jobs. So it's the same thing.
Thank you, Datuk. Maybe we can get some reactions from the floor, because I think the floor has been pretty quiet over the past 30 minutes. Could you be succinct with your question and direct it directly?
I see one raise of hands there in front. Do we have any raise of hands? We have 1, 2, oh wow, okay, we got a lot coming in. I think what's your comment? Okay, alright. Well, we'll get the questions coming first, and then we'll synthesize to the moderator. Please be succinct. Sekali lagi, terima kasih banyak for that response. Willie, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Abang. My name is Willie. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. My question is direct to YB Datuk Khalid. Yeah. It's basically about public transport. Yeah. At the moment, passengers are unable to know when will buses arrive and depart, and it actually reduces the trust in the public transport. But I believe in 2018 we have read articles about Brunei planning to implement new IT system to the public transport, which encourage the bus ridership. And let us know about the exact location of the public transport as well. And back in 2016-17, when I was in UBG, and our market research is on the public transport as well. And we asked around the public in the whole Brunei actually, if there is a reliability in the matter, they don't mind to use the public transport, especially like for those of us who have been overseas, and it is all about the reliability. So I'd like to ask YB Dato, what's the update and your point of view on this matter?
Thank you very much, Willie. Brings us back when you were in the state, yeah? Can I have the other question? Raise your hands, please. Hi and no. Hi. Following Ashmir, you make a call. We have a gentleman in time. Question, please. Introduce yourself and your question succinctly, please.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. I'm Chiku Zul, Senior Technical Instructor at the School of Aviation in IBTE. Right, so I've been working there for a year, and most of us, or I was like one of the sole under the design of 20s and higher. So what sort of things we have, right, is you try to initiate this Bawasan Pemilihan 2035. So my question is, how can we as the youth now, how can we sort of work together with the older generation and our senior colleagues in order to create a mutual relationship built on respect for each other? So that's my question. And to any of the YBs, if there's any sort of initiatives or recommendations that us, the youth, we can do as well. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Chiku Zul, for that question on aviation and initiatives that we do. Can I get raise of hands on my side? Okay. Can I see? I have two ladies here. Iza.
Introduce yourselves and your questions succinctly, please.
And good morning to all of the visitors here and everyone. So I would like to address my question to YB.
Kalau di sini okay, I'm not good with this mic. Kalau saya network di mana you cari?
Come again?
Network. Kalau saya for
Network, sorry. Yeah,
So
that's
you
that.
talked about
sorry, I'm not good with this.
Sorry, can I have your name?
Okay, you use this one.
Sorry, my name is Sajjad Sukhinadri. So you talk about diversifying the economy. But what steps do the youth have to take to diversify their skills and education outside of their academic qualification? So I know that we are encouraged to do IRD, L-Field Center, and community work and to upskill. However, how do I stand out when everyone is doing the same thing? And I know that when everyone is doing the same thing, the competitiveness lowers and
Wallahu alam.
it reduces one's employability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very brave of you. I'm going to pause for a minute. Do we have any questions in the middle? Button, your call? Okay, well, we'll let the question later. Thank you very much. Thank you. Your name and your question.
Okay. Good morning, Minister. This is Sineli from UBD.
Sorry, microphone is switched on.
Yeah, this is Sineli from UBD.
Let me just come there, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, this is Sineli from UBD. And it is my real honor to get a chance to ask a question to ministers. Actually, I'm not a Bruneian nor totally foreigner, but I love Brunei so much. From 2015, so that I ended up studying Brunei studies, Brunei at the UBD. So I want to ask, how do I, as a Brunei loving foreigner, contribute to Brunei for the national development and Asean Brunei 2025? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh wow, that's a interesting question. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Okay, so we got those round of questions, and understandably we want to also actually enter into a break. Should we get the ministers to answer first? Or?
Maybe we can request all of the ministers to probably respond as quickly as possible as well, because we need to have a break due to the mic. Mic also needs a break.
IR 4.0, right?
So, anybody has any preference? Would you like to respond to that?
Okay, a few questions that maybe I can answer. Maybe first of all, our Korean friends. Right? Okay. In UBD, how can you also help with Brunei's so reach wawasan 2035? Yeah. I think few areas, of course, to achieve wawasan 2035 is not just about we all Brunei working together and trying to achieve. We need to work with other people, right? So one specific example is economic diversification. That we want to, as I mentioned earlier on, answering to the earlier question, is about how do we bring in foreign direct investors to come here, bring their technology here, and transfer it to our local people, and also bring the export market and so on, so that we can trade with bigger regions and so on. So I think as a foreigner, you may have the contact back home and so on. Then you might see suitable for Brunei. I mean, you live in Brunei for maybe a few years, then you see, okay, where are the potential strengths of Brunei that we can capitalize on to attract more of this FDI to come to Brunei. And maybe you have a sense that this is a more suitable country, politically very stable. Generally, people are well educated and speak good English and so on. So these potentially benefits of this FDI can come here to forward. So I think with that contact, maybe it will be good. And also maybe whatever you can share with
Muslim
our
family.
Yeah.
local youth
Are you
also about
It's
how the
it's
youth
doing a
in
diagnostic
South
report
Korea,
for
for
that.
Oh,
example,
still this one.
Yeah.
how they
Tapi belum lagi connected kan?
It's connected, but there's something wrong with the Wi-Fi that did connect.
So
So
I
yeah,
think
buat
maybe
diagnostic.
briefly to your question. On the economic diversification of economy and how the youth can actually
Boleh kita text saja
sort of
kan?
diversify industries and so on. I think
Give me about
you
10
know
minutes.
the Manpower and Employment Council did a survey recently about and asked the youth what they prefer to do. To be honest with you, most of them, 68% say they prefer to work with the government. Okay, so and then maybe about 10% only feel that they want to start their own business. Maybe another 10% they say they don't mind working in the private sector. I think this could be a bit challenging because the government is already so cannot have that kind of new openings all the time to pick up the new volunteers and so on. So I think we need to encourage the youth to entrepreneurship and then participate more in the private sector. And so how do you do that? So again, along the line that I said just now, if our businesses are concentrated on 450,000 people in the country, so their company will not grow significantly over time, and they will not be hiring more and more people every year. So we need to create these opportunities. On one hand, to create new jobs, on the other, to diversify our economy to other sectors. So that whatever your education background has opportunities to come into these jobs, right? Rather than if we say we are just oil and gas, then what the people that we need are only related to oil and gas sector. So we want to kind of create more diversity in our industries. So this FDI they come in, and we must, as I said again, we must learn to work with other people. We must accept what is in front of us and dedicated to it, and work, accept that job and get the experience that I said, that I talked about earlier on. Understanding about organizational behavior and so on. Once you build a foundation there, you can decide what else you want to do. And the other thing that we're working closely with Ministry of Education is about what kind of industries are we looking at going forward, right? So that when you talk about how do you make yourself stand out a little bit more, is to make sure that people are going to study something or excel in some of these skills that will actually help you to contribute more in that identified priority sectors. So these priority sectors, Ministry of Finance and Economy has identified 5 priority sectors. One is downstream oil and gas, right? So downstream oil and gas is not about oil and gas. It's what you can do in downstream oil and gas. Whatever we define out of, for example, the refinery that we have in Pulau Darussalam, how do we use that feedstock to do more downstream activities? Furniture making and all that sort of thing that can become possible. Right? So tourism, of course, before COVID-19, that was actually a major focus, but of course now we're focusing a lot on domestic tourism. So we work with Brunei Tourism Board on that one. And then the other one, of course, is ICT, right? And then we have services, and then we have food sector, right? So each of these 5 sectors, under Ministry of Finance and Economy, we have recently sort of finalizing our economic blueprint, set the guiding principle about how we develop our economy. And then once we identify, say for example, we have identified these 5 sectors, we are doing the roadmap for each one of them. So we're working closely with Ministry of Education to make sure that we train people in this area. MPEC is also doing a study in terms of how many jobs can we create in all these industries if we will proceed with that. So maybe in the interest of time, this is what are the things that we get information, share with you. You can then focus on where our youth should be training themselves, and then move forward from there. Of course, the other second question is about Wawasan. We need to define how can the youth do more also to work together. I think So from personal experience, because under the Ministry of Finance and Economy, we do have a lot of GOCs. Okay, so we have things like hotels and so on. So we of course try to our best to hire local people, right? But sometimes local people are influenced by sometimes not by their parents about when there's a government job opportunity, just quit your job and then join the government. Even though the pay may be lower or privilege is lower, join the government. Because again, coming back to this notion that government job is more secure and so on. But I think in private sector there are opportunities. I just want to quote one example very quickly. Brunei fertilizer industry in Somalia. So we are building a fertilizer plant today, right? So when we need this so-called the operation people, right? So we needed 200 people to train them, but we only managed to get 162. So what we did then was we take this 162 and send them to training, send them to Terengganu, send them to Sarawak. And then when they come back, they know what is the actual working environment. So what I talk about organizational behavior, but in this case it's like, what is the working environment in the fertilizer industry, for example. So when they come back here, I can say we have no problem with them. Because they already have in the mindset, they know what it is like. Walking under the sun, everybody is doing that. There is no problem. Right? So, but if people are not used to it, they say, oh, why do I have to walk under the sun for 20 minutes? So people start to complain. But if you accustom them into that normal environment, then people will say, this is normal. Why, I should be able to accept it, and other people are also accepting that. So these are the sort of process that we are going through. And today, I can tell you, they're still with us. Except one, that for government job. But surprisingly, not many left. And I visited them a month or so ago. They are very happy there. They are learning a lot of things. So these are the things that, in terms of our approach, so how do we approach this? So that they will see their future in DFI. And so how do you work with the older generation? Many have good advices for you. But sometimes they have maybe other advice that is good. Work for the government is good, I'm not saying bad. But when the government cannot take on so many, then we have to look at other alternatives. I think that's what they say. So, the other question is public transport, a difficult one. So I'll leave it to Dr. Mutalik. But I have to say, before I get into him, I understand what you're saying about this. In other countries, you can tell the bus is coming in 2 minutes and so on. But also, I think we are talking about the economies of scale in Brunei. I know as much as MTIC like to do this, but we have a public transport, a reliable public transport is not just about how you know what time the bus is coming. It's about how frequent the bus is coming and so on. But Brunei, again, we're down to lack of economies of scale. 450,000 people. Not many people take buses, right? And how economical it is, and how much is the investment that's needed. I have to tell you honestly, if you were to do a proper public transport system, it's a huge investment, and probably you will not recover a lot of your revenue from it. Right? So, are there other innovative way of doing it? Or just come back to our discussion here? How do we have a bit forward looking? Do we copy what other people are also doing? People are the bus system, you also have the bus system. That is obviously a very good example. How do we work with that, for example? Right? So, for example, if that driver can say, okay, every morning 7 o'clock, you are going to ferry people to school. When you finish with that, 8 o'clock, you're going to ferry another group of people to go to work. Right? And so on. So you have a sequence. If we can line up this sort of thing, more people can drive that. Right? And at a competitive rate. Because all your business is lined up. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it's a catch-up of audience, right? You know your business. So it's a secure business. So maybe there's an opportunity. So some of these things, ideas that we talk about in actually, how do we make sure that some workers, I can understand some workers, they don't have transport to go to work. They don't. But how do we, it's not because they don't want to work. So it's wrong to sometimes to blame the view and say, oh, they are lazy, they don't want to work. But because they're constrained by transportation and so on, right? So there are many other factors. So when we went into the real reason, sometimes a lot of them is due to transportation. But transportation, the public transport will address that issue because sometimes when people finish work at different time of the day and so on, how do and with the lack of economies of scale, how can we make it reliable? Jangan sekarang we start investing hundreds of millions of dollars in there, and then it's actually not quite fitting to not so convenient, right? So this done was I think we can talk about that one, but in the interest of time, Dr. Mukalik, maybe you can take over the difficult part from here.
So I'll just get straight to it, Yang Dr.
Am I allowed to say? Okay, thank you so much. I think I don't have much to add on, but I really love to answer Willie on the question. Well, seriously, there are 3 points that I like to convey here very, very quickly. I think with regard to public transport system, maybe you heard from Dr. Henry's perspective, which is very true. We've been discussing and talking about this from even a couple of years back. There are a lot of modalities being explored. In 2015, just to tell you, you were in UBT at that time, right? So 2015, we have this document called Land Transport Master Plan, if you recall, which is still current. And we did that with the collaboration with CSPS and some consultants at the time, just to look at how we go forward with public transport in Brunei. And you have to look at it holistically because we can't look at head-to-head with countries like Singapore and so on. But there is an economics of scale factor, which is very true. But at the end of the day, we have to be innovative. We have to be innovative. If you look at the LTFP plan, it's still available on the website, on our website. There is I'm not too sure when it's published, but internally we have come up with some figures to look at this by the time we look at this. And I'm telling you, it's to close towards billions if you want to put it in the right perspective. And I would have to do that towards that big amount. Now, put that aside, let's have a look at the other alternatives that we are probably looking at. Of course, you're right. Information system, I think that's in fact spot on. That's what we're actually trying to do. Rather than the big bang, we try to re-strategize and look at it from the perspective of, phase by phase. There was a big bang model, which, as I said, it requires a whole new amount of big funds that we are looking at. But you have the other alternatives, the other creative solutions. And this is where we want to break it up. At one point initially, we wanted to start with the infrastructure, the bus stops and so on. The stops, where are they? And then the information that you said. Now, that's why we are talking to some few ICT SMEs as we speak right now. And in fact, we are doing a kind of a pilot right now to do this. And we have received good response. And to get started with the information, the scheduling and so on, the reliability. We want to explore through this pilot and so on. But eventually, at the end of the day, last year during the same similar dialogue, I don't want to repeat what I said, I talked about that, right? But last year, I did mention about the, the explosion of Grab, Uber, and Dart in our context. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, nobody even thought about that. Then suddenly, a young fella, as you know, this Dart owner, came to see us a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, said, look, this I will facilitate you. We will facilitate you from the government perspective, from the land transport, which now we give the screening and the permits and so on. So now, today, we have that, and I'm one of the proud users of that still, and I'm so happy to see these are mostly our local youngsters who have actually gone into this to make income and so on, and to provide public service. I'm talking about passengers. I'm talking about delivery of goods. And what's next? What about public sector menggunakan tadi juga? I mean, at the moment we have a civil service of berapa? 70,000 orang. 70,000 orang, roughly, I may be wrong. In the civil service, think about it. If just 10% of them are utilizing .NET, that will create more drive to get more drivers for that and so on. At the same time, you're addressing the needs. Now, the other sector is kanak-kanak sekolah. This is another big sector. I'm talking about not only kanak-kanak sekolah, but vibrant young youth like yourself, UBT, UNISA, UTB, and so on. If we put all together all these people in it, what we put on, I'm talking about thousands, but these are potentially users of any form of creative public transport services. So that again, if you revisit LTFP, we do the review, by the way, but at the end of the day, there are alternatives to look at this. And that's why we started off with the pilot project that I mentioned to you. And I'll be glad to share more on this if you want, if you have the hotline. But there is an opportunity actually, because if you look at the current bus services right now, public transport services, and I tried it on myself, sometimes the information is probably not there yet, the connectivity, the reliability. So you're talking about reliability, you're talking about quality of the services, and thirdly, the affordability. These are the three things that are still in our review. That hopefully we come up with a kind of an alternative, creative solution, as what my colleagues mentioned. And lastly, allow me. Sorry, we had a Korean friend just now. Thank you so much. If I just allow, because you mentioned this is not to our Korean colleague, but to all of you here, the youth here, because I was thinking, what can you do to contribute in the next 15 years? He said, 15 years to 2035. Well, to me, over the next 5 years, I said 3 times, 5 years. One of the things that we all should be very mindful of to reach that goal. You know, I learned this from the Korean terms. Sorry, I got the ideas now. A few years ago, I attended a forum. I think we learned this from a Korean speaker. He used the word drums. DRUMS, right? But I think you should know better. But what is the drum factor is all the challenges which is happening in the journey towards achieving something. And our goal here is to reach 2035, inshallah, but the drums is the distortion factor. You have the rumors factor, you have the untruth factor, and you have the miscommunication factor, and you have the smears. These are happening now as we speak in the social media and so on, and these are all the stumbling blocks towards a positive development in any context. And to address that, this is where perhaps, it's my last point before we leave for break for coffee bean. I leave you with this one word to address the drums towards our journey is the respect. Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It's my own, I coined this on personally, which I use at home, and to my colleagues, and the ministry, and to my friends, and so on. It's all about, who knows that, respect. R is resilience. You have to be tapah, resilience. Tapah mendengar apa-apa. Tapah towards our vision. Resilience. E, we're talking about empowerment. We heard about it from YP Datuk, I think, in the Saturday. You empower the youth, but you have to be guided. You have to be mentored, but you have to be steered. And S is nothing more than solat bagus juga. But that's already built in. We shouldn't leave that. Sustainability. You have to be sustainable. All this, all our initiatives must be sustainable. It cannot be berpecah-pecah, it cannot be halfway. It's got to be sustainable. And P, none other than a good personality, you have to be a good pribadi kekanian. That is all this kani jaga and so on. And E, another E is again is the word to be energetic, healthy, energized, and so on. If you're not healthy, payah jaga kesehatan, jaga kesejahteraan. And of course, the C is, I call it the CQ. It's very important. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Without communicating, you miscommunicate, you cascade it. You don't cascade it well, you get a feedback differently to you. And these are all the challenges towards our journey to 2035. And this is happening, and I really need, not only for you, for all of us here too. And that should be probably my guiding principle as well, until I sit here today to give this and share this with you all. And of course, the T, none other than all of nation, teamwork. We have to do it together. It's not one ministry, it's many of us. It's going to be NGOs, it's going to be private sector, the schools, the students, the youth, and so on. Thank you very much.
If I can just 2 minutes. 2 questions. I also like to answer this. One is on Zoom and the other one is at the city. So, yeah. On Zoom, you were asking about youth and 2035 vision. Can I just put this as an, first of all, I have to put this on the perspective that you are part of the vision 2035. I can just give an example, okay? Your contributions in terms of better quality of life. Let us see. Look at look at organizations or youth movements such as Green Brunei, Hand for Hand. I can name a few. Sports, okay? Teach Me Guru. Sharifah is here from Smartest. Yeah, of course you are here. These are all going to your support towards Vision 2035. You're already in there. You're moving. We have to acknowledge your roles in promoting better quality of life. I know I have a colleague there, Teach Me Guru. You, with your volunteers, giving educations, free educations to the kanak-kanak yang memerlukan. Free. That's your contributions. And we pray that this year we will get a better results of 5 A's. 10 orang. Last year we achieved 2. We have nearly 100% achievements. We have increased from 40. We start with 20, 40, now 50. So I have to acknowledge, you are already part. You are already there. But we have to do more now, inshallah. Okay? We have to do more. You inspired me yesterday, Sharifah. Okay? How you play a big part in ensuring that the autisms, our anak-anak autism are not left behind. We all are there. But let us do all. But what we want from KKPN. Sometimes we don't want you to report to us. I hate the word report. Share with us. Therefore, this will reflect the true picture of what youth has given to the nations as we move towards 2035. So I echo this word. Share with us. That is the true pictures of our young people. So that's the first thing. So with all the colleagues, yes, we have to work with all the generations. Okay? We all have to work with all generations because they have the wisdom. So let us work together. They have the wisdom, they have the experience. So if you combine this together, then it will be a very forceful young people. Okay, so that is my first answer. My second answer to Haja Siti, you inspired me. Mana Haja Siti today? Okay. You inspired me because I can see that you have that determination, You have that, okay, I want to do better, I want to do better. My advice to you, what I can share with you, Haja Siti, remember competition will always be there. You cannot get rid of these competitions. But how do you mitigate competitions? You have to understand about what entrepreneurship is all about. You have to understand what is market. What is market? You have to play with market driven. You have to look into not the same thing, you have to look into niche areas. I share this with you today with Sharita Fabric. These are young ladies and a guy. So I say guys young. So that we are not left behind, our guys are. These are young people who are biology degree in biology, they form up a textile industry. Their productions, the first year, they have to achieve 5,000 a month with 80% are for export purpose. Textile. Then we see, putting rambut. Our market is simple. Our market is to take over some of the orang luar in the market. So I think we have to be very niche. We have to change the way we do this. We have to look into the market. It's not about what we like. It's what the demand. What is there that you have to capture. So that is my advice to you. Competition will always be there. But what is the niche that you want to give? What difference that you want to give? And you have to understand the market. And also, it's not about success. You have to be very resilient. It's not about success. You have to not understanding about success. You have to understand about failure. If you understand about failure, that will be much better. It will inspire you to do better. Okay? So you have to understand, oh, if I fail, and so on. Okay? You know, sometimes you have to be a risk taker. I agree with Yang Hormat about risk. It is a risk. Either you want to take it or you don't want to take it. But my attitude to you is be a risk taker. Okay? So that is my advice to you. Competition will always be there. Okay? Look into the niche, be bold, be brave, be creative, be innovative, and look into the market demand. It's not what you want, it's what the market wants. Okay? And jangan takut untuk keluar daripada Brunei ini. Okay, my class is here, my class has gone to Indonesia. I've seen the fashion industry that have gone to Middle East. I've seen all these things by the young people. So, jangan takut. Be bold. The market is not in Brunei, but the market is big there. It's a free market. Now we have RCEP. Hopefully the RCEP will give you access and so on. So I think that is what I want to the heart and to slowly sell and promote the beauty of Brunei. That's my advice to you. Sell and promote the beauty of Brunei, our people, our culture, our heritage. You sell, you can be all promoted. Okay? Sell Brunei. So thank you.
Wonderful nuggets of wisdom. I think Yang Hormat well articulated the role that you could play in Awasan, from pragmatism to considering economies of scale and the wider free market. Not also forgetting the little bits of inspiration of what characters we should hold. I think that's pretty much how I could summarize that.
And I think from my side, the tough challenges that the ministers actually have to deal with. I think a lot of us, probably we do underestimate that, oh, maybe being a minister is an easy job. Jadi saya saja saya, tapi it's really,
understanding all these
areas. Exactly. Like really thinking ahead of the future. So I think thank you very much to all our ministers for sharing insights so far. So we are going to take about 5 minutes break. Because the microphone needs some break. But also maybe take your time to go to the toilet or go to coffee beans, come back here so that we can do the final session. Inshallah, maybe we might focus more towards digitalization, opportunities for young people. So if you can come ready with your questions. Also, if we look at Slidos, it has already gone up to 132. So we'll do our best to select what questions that we can respond after this. So see you guys in about 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 11:04. Please be here at 11:09. We'd like to start on time. And as I've been informed by Ayam Muhammad Dr. Adif, he said that we could end it about 12.
Yeah.
So we've got the time hopefully. Please be back here at 11:09. Your break starts now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you found the first half of the session to be very engaging, valuable and constructive. To participants who haven't registered prior to entering this hall, please do so just right outside the two exits. Okay? Thank you.
Satu, dua, tiga. Terus. Terus satu, dua, tiga, coba. Satu, dua, tiga.
Dapat ada next program lah. Ya, insyaAllah we can PJS. We already contact around and also insyaAllah. Yang garden area, hopefully we can get it. Hopefully we can get it. Ya tak, kalau sebelum you register kan? Tapi event itu dekat lah. We are waiting, insyaAllah by 6 a.m. we hope to get response dari PJC. I think so, si share me the
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I have everyone's attention? May I have YPS committee members of all teams please assemble by the panel chair for some photo shoot session. May I repeat? May we have the core team of YPS to assemble by the panel, and we are about to take a group photo with the ministers very shortly. Thank you. For everyone else, break is still on until 11 of time. Once break is over, please take your seat and we will start in a few minutes. If you have any questions while having the session, please raise your hand promptly, and one of our volunteers will give you the mic as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, laptop change time. Yeah, just put it. Azimah is courting me. Have you gotten your food? Are you not gonna eat? I think you should. Have you eaten? But there's sandwiches. So there's still some sandwiches. And then now there's a bit of pastries and then little paper bags. Yeah, I went and charged my phone and charged myself. Did you manage to record a lot? I recorded it in like type or like type. The whole first session until 1 o'clock, until 11 o'clock. Did you do it like, how did you do it? I want to see your format. Because mine is very like rough. For me, I literally just type whatever I hear. Okay. And then later, baruta, I refine it. Yes. the brain does not process that quickly. Because she Where did you sit today?
Hi everyone. So we truly value your feedback, and you need to scan the QR code on the screen in front of you. Please help us let us know how we can actually improve the session better. And also, we would like to remind you have 3 minutes left. We will start the next session in 3 minutes. So please call out your friends, your colleagues who are outside to come back into the theatre hall. I repeat, we will start in 3 minutes. So please call your friends, colleagues to come back into the theatre hall in 3 minutes, as we want to start as soon as possible, exactly at 11:50.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start shortly. Please take your seat as we are about to start the second session shortly.
Yeah, just waiting for them to get ready. Yeah.
She sits with the.
Guys, everybody ready to start? Okay. Can we later after this just maybe let us know where the hands, even though we may not take the first round, at least we know how to identify you guys in the second round. Okay?
And if we still have friends outside, can you just ask them to come in? We want to start outside. We'll just have the ministers come in a few seconds now. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, if you are still standing, please settle down. Likewise on my right side, please settle down. Thank you. While we're waiting, very well done everyone. Congratulations. Inshallah, we'll get more questions. Yeah, please give yourself a hand.
Adriel, can you come down? Okay, can you join us?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start off the second session today. Sorry, I'm all over the place now. So we've got about 40 minutes roughly, yeah? So let's make this as efficient as possible. So before we kickstart the Q&A, there's an interesting question that popped out from the Slido just now. It's about what the ministers or the ministry view as future ready to the specific ministry. Maybe perhaps we can invite Wazira to Aliuddin to respond.
Okay. Thank you so much for the questions. I know whether this is Slido or this is the questions from the Slido. Thank you to the whoever posed this question. I think I started with our vision to the thing when you talk about future ready agents of change is all about being adaptable and resilient. Now we're talking about the future ready youth. I think when you look at this future ready youth, it has been a topic that we have been using during our Hari Raya Kebangsaan. That was since 2019. And we have been mentioning this, and then we also use this term in our dasar belia. For future ready youth need, I think we have to look this in a very holistic way. Okay? We must see that the future ready youth need on both sides. Yeah? You must be ready to face the current challenges. What is there in store? There must be a tool, and at the same time, it must be a balance between Australia, Brunei, and again, it has to be duniawi dan ukrawi, a balance approach. So now, I will touch on the second part to ukrawi. I will go for the how do I see the future ready youth? So we believe that the future ready youth must be youth who are adaptable, with strong critical thinking, with emotional skills, self-awareness, empathy, and most importantly, able to work in a transdisciplinary approach. It has to be a transdisciplinary approach. What we mean by a transdisciplinary multidisciplinary approach, I need they must put these skills that are significant in today's volatile job market. Okay, so it has to be. Okay? It has to be with these fourth industrial revolutions. When we look into the fourth industrial revolutions, I need the future review. I need to see when we talk about transdisciplinary, I need they have to have a soft skill. Okay, so therefore they are able to capture what the market are there in the future, our future market and so on. But they must also embrace new forms of literacies, such as digital, financial, and cultural literacies. So these are what we have to have as a future-ready youth. They are able to embrace all these fourth industrial revolutions, the digital economies, the digital, the in terms of financials, and so on. So this is what our future-ready youth should be able to. And they must also be able to create a network and collaborate and not work in isolation. Okay, you cannot work in isolation. Okay, so this is how we see future. And last point, okay, our hope for our young people, they must be very brave and must able to take risk. People say about risk takers. Okay, and they must also not all about building success. As I share with them, they must be able to mitigate failures as well. Therefore, in order to do this, there will be a character building, and so what we call they have to resilience, and okay, they must be able to take risks and learn. And there will be times that when you succeed, and there will be times when you fail, and both are equally important. So this is what we hope for our future-ready youth. See, take advantage. All these challenges. You have to take from these challenges, and you to take the advantage, and you have to prepare yourself for the future workforce. Okay, so how do you determine the future workforce? I think that Natalia highlighted about this in this digital economy, okay, and Dr. Rami was highlighted about the future workforce. We have to align ourselves with the future workforce. And so that's how we will like to highlight about the future ready youth. Now, for the government, it's important for us to provide platform for them so that they are able to be ready. So we were talking about our education systems, how we see the future workforce. So this is where the alignments of the government initiative, the ecosystems will be able to provide our youth with our future ready youth. So it is important for us to look into the ecosystems and to look into the platforms. So we have to synergize ourselves, okay, between the ministries, with other stakeholders. So all our youth are ready. Okay, all our, and my last point, dalam sini ni kan, the youth keep on using the word. It's not about employment. It is all about decent and meaningful employment. Okay, the word is not about unemployed. It's not about employment, but when it is an employment, it must be decent employment, and it is employment which are very meaningful. So I think it's something that for us, okay, we have to look under guidance of NPEC. These are areas that we have to align ourselves so that our youth, we should capitalize them to the maximum. Sayangkan, they have the talent, they have the intellectual abilities, so we have to tap in and we have to benefit from this so that they are able to be part of the nation building. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ratu. So what I'm hearing for future ready, they have to be future ready. They have to be ready to embrace the challenges. They have to be resilient, resourceful, innovative. Maybe we're missing a few more, but those were the keys that really popped out. Perhaps we can go to yang former representative, and this is a little bit controversial as well, because there is also that question that relates to the future ready of candidates in terms of the context of 4IR. There was that question that says, we are rushing to go into 4IR, tapi the reality is, are we ready to actually embrace this 4IR, especially with the government, with the public sector?
Thank you very much, Atin, for the question. Are we ready? How ready are we for the 4IR? As we speak, a lot of people are already talking about if I know, whether realistic or not. A good example is 10, 15 years ago, we started to talk about 3G. People in, say, if you spend Korea and Japan were talking about 4G at that time already. So it is inevitable. What I'm trying to say here, insyaAllah, kita ni menuju ke arah wawasan 2035. In fact, if I can relate that, the readiness, future ready, kita ni towards 2035, is actually as part of our mission in the digital economy of the planet to Asean. It's a bit quick, but it says it is a digital and future-ready society. This is what the plan is hopefully we're going to see by 2025 and of course beyond 2025. How ready are we? Well, we have to look at the talent development. And this, I think, in fact, has been mentioned a few times. I think the critical source that we really need to look at is the talent development. The youth today are the leaders tomorrow. They need to build the talent in whatever form. But of course, we have to be very relevant to the progress, advancement of technological development. And this is where we hope to see that we will be prepared for the fourth industrial revolution. What is the fourth industrial revolution? Jangan tadi tahu cakap-cakap saja. But let's define what it is. Do we know what it is? Do we know what is the industrial revolution? We know second industrial revolution. It goes way back, I'm not going to lecture on that. Because right now, fourth industrial revolution, the fuel is data. Today, data. We talk about internet economy today. I said 1995 we started to talk about internet. People are driven to learn about it at that time. People are driven and universities are driven to come up with all the respective programs, degrees and so on to meet this future advancements. And this is the reality right now. If you ask me how ready are we, first you have to look at the, as I said, sorry to recap, but there's the components. It's very important that we should have a network infrastructure to do this. Without infrastructure, we'll be a bit challenged. That's the reality. And alhamdulillah, as I said, within the top two context of tadi punya infrastructure development in Asean, for example, I think we have a good opportunity ahead. That's number one. Number two, what about the talent that I said? This is the talent development. People keep on changing and changing their jobs because they have to meet the requirements of the industry out there. The services out there are changing. I mentioned just now a good example of people going to the counter services. Dulu, for example, I just thought of this. First from the banking sector, I know maybe the two, you will be the best person to say it, but this is from a day-to-day end users. Dulu, remember, the time when you go to the teller with your passport and so on, now you go to the ATM, you do mobile banking and so on. And this is the reality. And you imagine what will happen next after that and after that. Health has also come in. And we have seen this with Bhutan and Bhutan punya AI application and so on this year. And maybe next year, but it's happening this year. So if you ask me, how ready are we? I'm sure, inshallah, with a whole nation again, it's not one ministry, but the whole of nation approach together, especially education. Now, unfortunately, our Minister of Education is not here, but I'm sure he will love to share his perspective on this too. Every year we turn out a lot of graduates, right? We are one of them before, and so on. The next 10 years will be the same thing. But are we producing the right talent? That's the big question. And if we can answer that question, inshallah, then we can confidently say how ready are we for the future. The digital ready future, it has wawasan 2035, sorry. 2035 itu ada banyak highly educated and exactly, skilled people and so on. And we are building that skill towards that journey. And hopefully with the input of the digital economy master plan, which is reviewed, maybe we can change it even for next 2 years and so on. We don't know. That's why I like to listen to the input of everyone here, the youth especially. Because if your document in the next 5 years, you'll be the one in the next 15 years, is kita sekarang duduk di sini. Inshallah, I pray for you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sajid. At this point on seeing whether or not we're choosing the right set of graduates, it's like a teaser to the next outcome, inshallah, huh? Maybe. And thank you, Muhammad Dato' Minuddin, Muhammad Dato' Dr. Amin, on those points on explaining and elaborating what the definition is for future ready, and maybe it is a definition that you need to define. Coming into Fatin, do check on me. Is it which something will be on?
I think we can go more towards the digitalization.
Okay.
Many questions on that as well.
Just so you know, to the participants virtually, we are looking at your questions sliders. Many questions, alhamdulillah. But I would like to open up the first round of questions for right for this session's time check. It is what time is it? It is 11:32. Got half an hour. So just for everyone's awareness, I see some hands. No, some hands here. First speaker, Mr. Safwan, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Safwan Haji Muhammad. I am heavily involved in the creative industry here in Brunei. So as we head towards IR 4.0, human capital in the arts and creative industry is one of the few that cannot be automated. So for us in the creative industry, 2020 was a difficult year. Usually we could put on shows that would reach 700 people, but because of COVID, we had to scale it down if we could, or go online. However, by going online, we have very limited platforms where we can try to monetize. YouTube is a potential, but unfortunately in Brunei, it's not possible. There are other platforms such as Fiverr where we can sell our skills online as freelancers. However, there are questions about how to monetize from that. So my question is basically, is there anything that is being done to help to ease the process of monetization for young entrepreneurs here in Brunei to reach the global market online? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question, first lady in white Tudong, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nadia Shahira. I am from University Brunei Darussalam. So today my question is to do with digitalization. So maybe it will go to YP Dato' Muttalib, but also maybe some insights from the other ministers. So I hope everyone is well today. It is more like a suggestion than a question. However, I want to share insights about it. So this is to do with mental health and employability. So if there is a problem with mental health, it will affect employability due to the lack of productivity, right? So this is not a new thing, but I'm thinking about digitalization of therapy sessions in Brunei. It is also not only in Brunei, but also maybe students, Bruneian students who are sent abroad. From news that I checked online, in 2018 there are 47 Bruneian scholarship students who are diagnosed with mental health. And in Brunei, yes, YBK I saw your name in the article. And also, there is an increased suicide rates, 2.6 suicide cases in 100,000 population in Brunei. So mental health is really a problem in Brunei. But this question was raised by my sister who is studying in the UK. She said that she prefers Bruneian psychiatrists or to help her with mental health in studying abroad instead of the local medical help in other countries because of cultural and language barriers. So I think maybe digitalization of therapy session can be done in Brunei. So what's your insight?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you. Please give a round of applause. Thank you very much. We'll have the gentleman here in the dark blue workshirt. Please introduce yourself and short question, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Muhammad Hamzi bin Omar dari Persatuan Orang Asean Penglihatan Brunei Darussalam. Saya adalah seorang OKU penglihatan topik yang lain, bukan langsung. Saya ingin bertanyakan, manakala negara Brunei Darussalam sudah mengaplikasikan conventional disability, manakala negara tadi akan misalnya dalam ongoing untuk akta OKU, dan sejauh mana progres satu untuk penglibatan OKU itu sendiri, dan mengenai dari segi macam apps ataupun digital, kebanyakan orang OKU perlihatkan ini tidak dapat menggunakan secara akses apa, menggunakan macam data ataupun banking online dari Bidiga. Kami sebagai pengguna juga pun tidak dapat akses. Adakah apps ini adakah mengikut web content akses yang lain? Dan satu lagi mengenai pekerjaan, kebanyakan misalnya banyak untuk mengambil pemeriksaan SPA, adakah pihak SPA sudah menyediakan ujian bertulis bukan mudah itu khusus untuk orang masalah penglihatan, khususnya untuk penglihatan.
Terima kasih. Wonderful diverse questions. We had one with Ranji from Stadia, and lastly, someone. Fatima, what do you think? We have one on the process of monetization for the creative industry, and I think in general entrepreneurs. And then the second one for Ms. Nadia and your sister who is in the UK. Far, near and far, on the digitalization of therapy sessions and leveraging on our local manpower for therapists who would be potentially coming in. And I suppose in some angle, yes, Dr. Ramsey, would you have a list that's friendly, this OKU friendly, as well as probably some aspects on digitalization on using apps?
So maybe we should just take just one more question in consideration of that. Can we get one more from this side? Just a quick question, please, yeah?
Maybe in the black class, please introduce yourself and your question. There's no...
Diana, right? Can we pass the mic?
I'll pass the mic. Yeah?
Okay, can you speak up, mic, please?
Great.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam.
I'd like to ask a question that also brings to light a matter for the ministers and the youth. Agriculture and fisheries plays an important role in developing our country's economy and to not be completely reliant on oil. Being in the agriculture and fisheries industry myself, I believe there's a huge potential it has not only from a business standpoint but also the economy and combating unemployment issues. Alhamdulillah, we live in a country where the government has helped to give incentives to encourage youth to take agriculture and farming, such as giving out land to develop at a low rental cost. However, what I've come to realize is that it comes down to the youth's perception of agriculture. Agriculture, farming, fishing is often perceived as old-fashioned, hard-working, and unprofitable, which I believe shouldn't be the case. IBTE has offered courses on agriculture and agriculture that often seen as the least popular option due to youth perception. My question is, what can we do to make agriculture more cool and attractive for youth? What can I do as a youth, an entrepreneur in agriculture, to help encourage others to be involved in this industry?
Thank you very much, Diana. Please give her a round of applause.
Maybe we can go to Wadi Datu Dr. Maybe we can answer about agriculture, making agriculture more cool, and then maybe if we could also answer another question.
So yeah, for a month's information, it's about 11:40. If we could be mindful, time is running out. Okay, keep it around.
Yeah, very quickly. Okay, on agriculture and fishery, you're right. I think it's a very important industries. If you look at especially on fishery, this region used to import a lot of fish and things like that from those countries that produce fishery products. I think we could take advantage of this demand and grow our local industries to cater for our own requirement as well as for overseas market. Agriculture, as we have seen from COVID-19, because of logistic issues and so on, a lot of products are not able to reach the marketplace. And so I think it's important for us to have our own food security assurance. So I think this is obviously important sort of industry. How do we make sure that youth can actually have a different perception about these industries? I think maybe this is a sort of a legacy issue. People tend to look at agriculture as a very sort of not so glamorous industry. But I think these things have changed. The industry has changed because agriculture people are adopting technology and so on. I think you have seen videos and so on about how they use drones to do the fertilizer, spread the fertilizer across the whole padang and so on. So with technology and so on, I think we need the youth to come forward to embrace these industries. So if no longer would agriculture be done in a competitive manner, you're using the traditional way of doing things. So I think we have to adopt technologies to ensure that our pricing and so on are competitive. So officially, a lot of development has been taking place in Brunei actually. We're working with a number of partners to develop those industries, again with technology. So again, you should look at this industry very differently from what the other traders' perspective. And universities are introducing courses and so on. I think UNISA just announced a new sort of faculty to cater for more sort of activities in agriculture. So I think the youth should take advantage of that with their maybe knowledge of technology and see how they can apply that in these industries. So maybe another one, creative industries. I think that's an interesting one. How do you monetize it? I think you have seen other people putting their products on YouTube or whatever. I think if YouTube buy this sort of product and to make their sort of whole platform more interesting and more people will come in. And they in turn sell advertisement to people and then they generate their money. And there are also private so-called platform people put in their products and sell to whoever that platform and then generate the revenue. Creative industry, you are right. You can say it's post-industrial revolution too. Creative industry is not just about filming, media, and so on. You can even say architecture is almost post-industrial revolution too. So is drama, for example, acting and so on. You cannot replace that. So whether or not one would say nursing is creative industry, I mean not this is creative because it's something that is post-industrial revolution proof. Because sometimes we cannot give that sort of personal care with robots, right? So there are many areas that are, don't be too frightened about this post-industrial revolution. At the end of the day, there are still certain activities which are not going to take over by post-industrial revolution. So we need to understand. So I think creative industry is one of them, right? But what I'd like to just add on to the earlier conversation about this future ready again. If you look at the first industrial revolution in the maybe late 19th century, when we invented the steam engine and so on, right? So it took about 100 years before the second industrial revolution came in, and then the third industrial revolution maybe around 1960 with the mainframe computer and so on, right? So whatever you want to do with this machine today, they need a big mainframe computing, but fourth industrial revolution actually started quite some time ago, maybe 10 years ago. And so in that 40, 50 years, we have very powerful computers like this. They can do a lot of work that you need a big computer, a big mainframe computer to do. So what it means is this revolution is changing much faster. So when we talk about future ready, do we know what future is? What is the fifth industrial revolution going to look like? We don't even know what fourth industrial revolution looks like today. But how do we make ourselves ready? So talking about just now, how do we prepare ourselves to stand out for the kind of jobs that we want to do and so on? There's no way to better prepare than to make sure that we do have the fundamental. I think a lot of people are talking about, in our education, you need to make sure that you get the fundamental right. Right, so that you can be adaptable whatever the situation has changed from the coming years. So for example, a doctor may no longer be certain services can no longer be needed. So how do you adapt yourself to a new environment? So today you have seen many of them who are sort of built a strong foundation are able to be a doctor as well as a CEO of a medical organization, and that is adaptability. So I think it's important for us to learn how to be able to adapt to the changing environment going forward when we do not know what really the future is going to be. Maybe I'll leave the other questions for my other colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Dr. Dr. You got some interesting points. I think Yang Berhormat Dr. Amin and covered a few others as well. With some from the agricultural industry changing their perceptions, but more focused on digitalization. Yeah, would be on one interesting point that was brought by Kanamji on being OKU friendly or disability friendly for these facilities, whether it's developing apps or general tools, as well as mental health digitalization. Just a quick refresh. Yang Berhormat, if you like.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, being mindful of time as well.
Mindful of time, very short, yeah. I've tried to address both the creative industry side and there was a good point raised about the mental health, how we digitize the services and so on. Indeed, I think this is one great opportunity, like I said before. We welcome this kind of thinking and proposals because even working at the digital economy must be other person, digitizing the industries. And we know very well, a good example is that we have robotics in the future and so on. Don't be scared about that, as my colleague mentioned. But you imagine somebody is there to program the robot. Somebody is still there required to do the configuration and so on. So in other words, what we're talking about is we're heading towards the fourth industrial revolution, I think simply said, is to value add and enhance our services and products. Value add. A doctor mentioned by my colleague earlier, it will be enhanced further by the good support and assistance of good robotics, for example. An engineer, for example. Dulu kita memakai apa? Slide rule and so on. Who are engineers here will know this. Slide rule, kan? No, sorry, you are not born yet. But now we have all these not all these digital calculators and so on that will help us. So things like this will evolve. But we certainly would like, because I like to recap here, because apa ini balik semula pada makasid syariah juga. And what you just mentioned tadi about menjaga orang mental health ni, in fact that is one of the five makasid syariah components yang kita ini berpatukan dalam ekonomi masa depan juga. And that is to menjaga akal, menjaga keturunan, menjaga nyawa. In your case, is menjaga akal juga. So we certainly it's all about digitizing our services, digitizing the industries, and somebody said this very quickly today, digitizing the government. This is also another challenging area that we see. Now, I think on creative industries, yes, you are right. We are evolving. A few days ago, I was just watching animated movies. And believe it or not, the last few years, animated movies are really popular now. But remember, there's always people behind it, right? The voices, the actors with a good voice. People would want to watch this animated movie with a well-known Hollywood actor yang voicing itu kan sama Joyo Pon. People must be there, but they have to be current and their talent must be reskilled and reskilled all the time. For that, I think I'll leave it to you. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih, Yang Berhormat. Yang Berhormat, just being aware of time as well, it's about 11:50 or 10 minutes. After this, I'll give you the finals here. I think, Alhamdulillah, we have like overall 143 questions on slide. I know we haven't been able to answer them all. Inshallah, we'll have somehow have that continuity of conversation beyond this panel or maybe in the next session. But just the last 30 seconds, Yang Berhormat, you have one thing you wanted to share with us? We'll share that later. Fatin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fadi. Do you guys feel that the questions have been responded to, or should we still solicit some response? Not yet? Okay, the one that hasn't been responded to.
Hamzi, I think.
Yeah.
I think if I can just respond to Hamzi tadi, on OKU. Thank you very much, Anjit. And I know that you are an advocate, because you are the president of the blind. Okay. I think the word here is all about inclusivity. And di bawah MPEC, okay, Empower Planning Employment Council, there's one quadrant which is vulnerable groups. Employment for the vulnerable groups. And vulnerable groups does include orang jangan salah sebutnya, okay, kelainan. Okay. I think we take notes because baru-baru ini kita buat dulu masa keberkatan is employment for orang OKU. Okay, we have to ensure that cari jalan untuk menentukan bahawa the inclusivity and the opportunities for OKU are there for employment. I think statistics are not very good, so we will ensure not only for the blind, also for all OKU. Itu yang pertama lah, inclusivity employment. Yang keduanya, on apps and digital, I think we have to transform ourselves into the using of apps and digitals in how we approach OKU. I think we have to work hard on this one. I think we will work with the economy. I think during their presentations, we highlighted also the 9 quadrant. At the moment, there are 8 quadrants. And we said that the 9 quadrants should be the vulnerable group. I think during the sessions that we engage to the digital economy to KPS program, they have 8 quadrants. So we said that the 9 quadrants we can add in the vulnerable groups in this trend of digital economy. And hopefully we are able to work together with the digital economy on this one. On the after, inshallah, these are things that have been ongoing since 2014. We are looking into this. Inshallah, barang-barang ini akan diteliti dengan baik-baiknya. Whatever we do, it must be a long-term strategy. Inshallah on this one. So, pekerjaan itu is something. And last on this one is, inshallah, our plan for Pusat Bahagia is for Center for Deaf and Blind. So there will be a Center for Deaf and Blind under the 4 roles of Pusat Bahagia, which is early intervention, carer, deaf and blind, and pre-op. So that is the way forward for Pusat Bahagia, so that we are able to complement with our colleagues Sharifah, Matters, Pusat Esa. We want to complement what they have. So these are the 4 quadrants that we are looking. So deaf and blind, we wanted to lift this for Pusat Bahagia. So there will be a center for the deaf and blind, so that everybody is not only for the deaf and blind, but it is also to train, to teach the society, so that they are able to communicate with the deaf and the blind. Okay? So this is what we are doing in our strategic plan, and we are about this the soonest. Our target is next year, all the Bahagia will be able to complement the other organizations. So I think on the creative industry, the last one, under me, we have been talking with Dr. Musalef. We, under this dasar year, if you look also, okay, under objective, pemekasan strategi pemekasan dia objektif itu, one of the objective is bagi menumbuhkan jawatan kuasa kebangsaan. I know menumbuhkan what's going to happen. I understand. So I think the target yet 2021, I think we have to work together with MPIC, to ensure that they are platform. And you know, it generates quite a lot of output. If the 2 of our being shared, it creates about 200 billion when you talk about global stuff in terms of creative economy and industry. So there are potential systems. So I think we have to work hard together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. One last important question was about mental health, given the rise of technology that's a reality for our young people, because it's affecting our productivity.
I think for this particular question, I think we should try to attempt to answer. Because there is a hotline in the Ministry of Health for you to call. I think so we are not supposed to try to suggest anything. You have to really leave it to the ministry, the relevant ministry to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Datu. Time check, but then it's 11:55. I know our young performers agreed to end at 12, so I think we will wrap up the session. Thank you so much for the questions. I think we'll give these final 2 to 3 minutes for, I think, advice. So, I think what do you think?
Yeah, maybe we can go for a quick advice and then just several rounds of word association from what the ministers reflected. Yeah. So maybe we can quickly go to quick 3 advices as opposed to
Top 3 advice?
Yeah, top 3 advice.
So we start from my side?
30 seconds.
That's right. Oh, Muhammad. To the right side.
I suppose it's quite challenging when we keep telling the youth about be innovative, be brave, take risks, and so on. I think these are all easy to say, but not easy to do. I think you read a newspaper, people will tell you be innovative, be creative, right? Take risks and so on. I can understand if I'm sitting with you there, what does it all mean? So I think we have to sometimes have to create our own space, right? And yes, we know what innovation is, we know what we are expected to be creative and so on. How do we create a space out of it that we think we can accept, right? So given all this technology and that's developing, nobody knows what it will be because it will be AI, it will be a lot of quantum computing and so on. How do you absorb all these things? But I think in Brunei's case, I think we take it a step at a time. We don't have to don't rush into say other people are all looking at this. We must also get there tomorrow. I think we have to get it a step at a time. And then the youth should also try to, as I said before, the world is going to be very different. So we need to work with other people. We cannot just think that we are just happy in Brunei, we just work with each other. But the world will become, I would say, more and more globalized, and we need to interact with other people in order to be successful. What it means is also how do we learn from other people so that we can become richer ourselves, richer in the sense of our thinking and all that. So thirdly, maybe important is we all work together, I mean the government and so on. So it's not everything government, but it's how we together, how the population of Brunei comes together and build a better nation. I think these are all important messages in my view that will help create a better platform for the youth to be part of all this, because maybe 20 years from now you are no longer youth. So the youth will then the next generation of youth will take over. So you will be able to share with them how you help with working together with the government and build a stronger nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think 30 seconds. But just to highlight, to sell, the volunteer act, I know it was in the slide though, it will be out in January next year. Just want to share. And then the name of Mangalinga, it will be out. So that it will be artificial intelligence. The esports, we support, we put a high emphasis on esports. We're going to invest on the esports so that we are ready to participate to the level of CKS, inshallah. So to the esports associations take disadvantage and work together with us. So we have to invest on that one. Okay, the takeaway, I just would like to acknowledge thank you to the youth. Without you, you are our strategic partners. Remember that we are working together towards the national development. So the takeaway from all these things is EQ, still not EQ. They were saying to me about EQ. We need to excel together, we need to evolve together, and we need to engage together. So it's all about the EQ. So excel, evolve, engage. So that's my 30 seconds. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Concluding remarks. First of all, thank you so much, everyone in this room.
really made us, it's a historical moment for me now, because of the youth here. And learning from you. And I learned a lot of things today, by the way, alhamdulillah. Quickly, I'm not going to say 30 seconds because I'm going to eat it anyway. I think there's no small role for anyone for us around here. I mean, don't think that you are youth today, you're not like contributing at all right now. No, you are contributing as we speak. You are contributing in terms of being an ethical user, for example. Remember we talked about being positive and very responsible users of technology. Put that in mind. That's number one. Number two, I leave you with you in this room. I think that two of and Asean was keep you into this. I only have respect. So I said respect, I will leave you with respect. When everyone leaves this room, think about the respect that I shared with you. It makes a lot of sense. But it can hit you. I mean, as of course, with your respect, alhamdulillah, that will lead to my third point, Makasid Syariah. Apa-apa ni, in our journey, we talk about a lot with smart nation journey, digital economy journey, and the fourth industrial revolution journey. My last point here is, don't forget the Makasid Syariah. Look it up in our www.mcic.gov.bn. Satu, menjaga religion, menjaga kita ni punya agama, menjaga kita punya nyawa, menjaga kita ni punya akal, menjaga kita ni punya keturunan, dan menjaga kita ni punya harta. So put that all together, that's where we should be headed towards, inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think part of sending our thanks to participants as well as Yang Rahman Babadatu. I think Fatin is also just to refresh. The theme today is leading for national development and new normal, and I hope we achieve that today. In the three objectives that we hope that we could introduce the town hall as a form of engagement, a whole of nation approach, as well as providing opportunities for young people. I think if I could, summarize in my own personal opinion, I think we should be accountable to the government, but the government is also accountable to us. And likewise, let's be partners together. Fatin, your takeaway.
Thank you, Pati. And I think also today we have learned so much about the challenges that the ministries have to actually do, and the seriousness on our side as well to actually develop the country and diversify the economy, not just for the current generation, but for the future generation. So also our YB ministers have also highlighted about the need for us to be future ready and to participate in development. So that means that the future is now, and that we need to actually come together to contribute. So maybe in ending the session, I would like to do a quick word association game with the ministers. We'll just throw one or two words, and you can throw back one word on what you think about this. So maybe we can start with YB Darussalam. The word is new normal. Your mind first.
Okay.
Interactive. Opportunity. This is not fair.
I think you stole my word. Sustainability.
Youth. One word for you. Youth. Yeah.
Power. Inspiring. Empowerment.
Isn't that like 2 words? You okay, great. Okay.